Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Tunnel Vision. I'm your host, Ryan Abraham, publisher of USCFootball.com, and I'm joined by Shotgun Spratling. I think he's right there. What's up, Shotgun? How you doing?
Hanging in there, trying to make the best of a bad situation, obviously.
Yeah, so we're doing this one tonight. I'll be completely honest. My cousin, who's back in Pennsylvania, did a little Facebook Live this morning and just had some friends on. I went on and we're chatting about it. It felt like it would be a good thing to get some USC people together and kind of chat about this really crazy time. And so I came on with Keely. We practiced this. I'm at my home now. Shotgun's at his home, not even in the studio, doing the social distancing stuff. And then while we were like kind of getting ready to do this, uh, Mayor Eric Garcetti came on, and Los Angeles and all of Los Angeles County had a safer at home order put in place. And then right after that, Governor Gavin Newsom came in and did a stay at home for the entire state of California. So it sort of stomped on Los Angeles's just announcement when the governor comes on and says it's going to be statewide. So at least the Los Angeles one, I don't know what the California one was, but for the next month, we are in a stay at home situation. So all non essential businesses here in California will be closed. Things like banks, financial institutions, grocery stores, hardware stores, things like that will stay open. But everything else is going to be closed, and they're just recommending that you stay home. You can go out for walks, you can do things, but for LA at least, it's for the next month, and obviously that would wipe out the entire what USC spring practice was going to go. We don't know when this is going to end, and if or when life will get back to normal. So we kind of wanted to talk with everyone about it and get people's opinions on it, and talk about the potential impact of college sports going forward. We hope that the beginning of the college football season wouldn't be impacted, but it could be. So we kind of wanted to talk about all of that. So that's why we're here. We're doing a special Tunnel Vision. I don't know about you, Shotgun. I'm kind of bored at home. If you're bored at home, we're doing work and stuff. Our jobs, we can still work. But I thought this would be a neat thing to go out, and I know there's a lot of people that are home, can't really do much, and maybe we can kind of reach out to them and give them a little platform to have some comments. And this is only on YouTube today. If we do more of these, we can do them on the multiple platforms. But give people a chance to comment and talk about what's going on out there in their lives.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different situation. Everyone's, like we said, previously on Sunday, it was just we're trying to figure out how things are going to continue to evolve, and it's been something where we're just trying to figure out as things go. And one day you're allowed to go do a couple of things, and now it looks like everything's going to kind of be shut down. And what impact does that really have for college athletics and for us covering college athletics? I mean, I think it's still to be determined. The long run, how long things like this are going to last, but obviously, it's going to have tremendous impacts going forward from everything from the spring seasons being canceled for athletes to spring football being canceled. And it's been a lot more phone conversations and stuff that have been working, which is not good for me because I hate talking on the phone, even though I'm a reporter. I would much rather talk to people face to face rather than on the phone. So it's getting a little bit out of the comfort zone to be on the phone trying to talk to people throughout the day.
Yeah, it's definitely an adjustment. We one of the reasons we were doing this too, we haven't done the remote kind of tunnel vision before out of the office, and we were getting some bad audio. So I wanted to try to do this remotely for myself. Dave S says, "Hey, no echo reverb on the chat in the chat room." Yeah, Dave. So I'm glad the audio is working a lot better. We can definitely do more of these going forward, but the audio sounds good. I think Shotgun's on his. Are you on your headphone? These mics right here.
Yeah, I believe so.
I have a nice big special Yeti mic, so that should sound a little bit better. Maybe we'll have to get you guys those as well. If we're going to do more of these remote things, certainly over the next month or so, it looks like we're going to have to be able to do that stuff. But it's like we're trying to figure out like what's cool, what's not cool, what can we do. I mean, they're saying that you got to bring your like hand sanitizer out everywhere if you go outside. You can still go to the grocery store, you can still go for walks, take your dog for a walk, ride your bike. But if you're gonna work out with somebody as a buddy, you got to stay 6 feet apart. And any gatherings you need to have some kind of hand washing station or like the hand sanitizer available. So it's going to be a big adjustment. I've been doing some workouts in my house. I just went for a kind of long walk in Hermosa today, and it's weird. You say hi to people and stuff. You're just kind of walking around, but that's okay. But one of the things I love to do is go play beach volleyball, and I love to play golf. Those are outside. I thought they would be okay. I think you're not going to be able to do that now. They're probably going to close the golf courses. I don't know for sure. If anyone knows, you can put it in the in the chat room or whatever, and do that. But for beach volleyball, because you're sharing a volleyball, that might be an issue. So I don't know. There's some of these things that there's a lot of rules. I'm just not sure what all of them mean.
Yeah, I'm guessing that golf's going to be shut down as well, even though it's kind of an isolated sport and one of the few that you can actually play as an isolated sport, because all team athletics are pretty much being shut down. And that's going to affect, USC's athletes going forward. A lot of players, all the players are on spring break right now. A lot of them have gone home for that. This week is USC's spring break. So I'm guessing they're going to tell players just, hey, stay home instead of coming back, because you're not going to be able to do team workouts together in the McKay Center. You're not going to be able to do team conditioning and stuff like that. My assumption will be that the strength and conditioning staff will say, hey, we devised this workout for you, and they'll list it out. And, it's going to be on the players to actually do things themselves in their homes. Now you're seeing some guys like Jacob Lichtenstein's working out of a garage in Florida, in his backyard type of thing. Isaiah Pola-Mounds with his brothers, they're all back from their schools as well. His younger brother Matthew is at Kansas State. I saw on social media they're working out together and stuff. So guys are continuing to work out, but now you don't have that. You don't have that team camaraderie. You don't have people pushing you in the weight room the same. So it's going to be what individuals are have that that Mamba mentality, I guess if you want to call it that. Kobe Bryant, that you're willing to just continually work so hard just from your inner core, rather than having someone else kind of help push you along. Now, hey, coaches are going to be calling guys in the mornings. They're going to be telling them, hey, we got to be doing this today, do that. You're going to be group texts and everything, kind of like what Vic Soto was saying he was doing as soon as he took over the job. But how far is that going to go? Yeah. I played college baseball, and we would get summer workouts, and it's like I ended up I'd get busy with work or something. I'm like, I ain't got time to work out. I ain't got time to do a long toss program today. I'll get to it next week type of thing. So it's going to be on the players. How focused can you be, and how important is football to you, that you can take care of your schooling, take care of your classes that you're going to have to. But I wrote a piece earlier today. It's just a shorter piece, but that they're having to make adjustments. And one of the things was like that you have an undaunted amount of free time compared to what you would normally have, because the spring semester is actually usually the busiest time for football players, because you load up your class load. You take your 16, 18 hours in the spring so that you can take 12 in the fall, or the minimum that you can take, just so you have that extra free time to do film study and to be able to work out during the season with practice, and how demanding the actual in-season schedule is. So during the spring, you load up more hours, but then you're, especially during spring camp, you got 5 a.m. workouts, you go to class, you eat some food, you go to a next class. There's very little downtime. I wrote a story a while back, I don't know, 8-9 years ago now, on Tony Burnett, just kind of detailed. He was doing track at the same time, and just detailed, and he had like 30 minutes to an hour of free time, and that was like, you need to eat some food during that time as well. And then because the rest of the time was, hey, you need to study, you need to you got tutoring and stuff, and then you go home and you got to write a paper or something. So there was very little downtime there, and it wasn't like you get home, you're like, okay, I'll play video games for an hour, and then I'll have some then I'll do some work. Because you got to get up at 5 a.m. So you get home at 9 p.m. It's like, all right, I got 2 hours. I need to get some sleep and rest my body. Now players are going to have to, you got more free time now with, the online classes, and you can wake up 5 minutes before and different things like that. And you're not going to be working out with the coaching staff and stuff. What do you do with that free time? Are you
Yeah.
using it to improve yourself mentally, physically, or are you just kind of wasting it? And are you resting on your laurels a little bit? And that's a big concern when you have a program that has not had success the last 2 seasons up to the standards that USC normally has.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. What you said, Shotgun. I think the motivation factor is big. I mean, I've experienced that myself the past year or so, when I've been working out more. It's really been because I've had coaches. I've gone into it's a class, so you're in there taking a class, and they're on you if you're not doing the right thing. And now they're posting workouts online, and I can kind of do them, but it's a whole different story when I'm doing it in my house by myself or in your garage or wherever you're doing it. We're seeing a lot of, I think Yogi Roth. So I posted some videos of me doing stuff, and Yogi Roth has, and other people are doing it. Everyone's like kind of working out at home, but it's a different thing when you don't have somebody like telling you what to do. And so there's a lot of individual people that are going to have to be, motivated there. I did do I don't know if you guys saw the fight on challenge you do. So have you seen that, Shotgun, where they do the push-ups, where they're doing like slow push-ups?
Jalen McKenzie started it looked like.
I didn't know what they were doing, but then Jalen McKenzie, like, actually, so it's like you go down and then you count to 5. So you don't lie on the ground. You hold yourself, and then you count to 5, and then you push up and you go T, and you spell out Trojans, and you say Trojans 3 times. So it's like 10 push-ups with a 5-second delay at the bottom. And so not that many people did it, but I posted one. I did a video of that, since I'm doing push-ups every day anyway, just like some of the things I do. But those are kind of things where you can maybe motivate each other through social media and stuff. But it's a whole different thing when Aaron Auspis isn't there yelling at you, telling you what to do.
Yeah, and you start to wonder, like, how much are guys able to even do, max weights and stuff because of the potential for injury? Do you have a spotter there with you? Do you have, is there a dad or a brother that can help out and spot for you? Or do you need to lighten your load and, try to work out a little bit differently because you don't want to risk an injury? These are the minor things that in the grand scheme of things, but these are the small things that people maybe not be thinking about, where a guy may tweak an injury because he's trying to work out at home and doesn't have a correct spotter or someone to point out, hey, your form's not right, or something small like that. And if things do clear up, and hopefully everything does health wise for the country, for the entire earth, but if things get back to normal in the fall, is there a guy that has a nagging injury, a bad back or something, where he just tweaked something the wrong way because he wasn't doing something just the right way? These are the small things that could happen. And hopefully these are the small things we'll be able to talk more about, because it's not, the larger things are being taken care of. And so we can get to the minutia of college football and, in the grand scheme of things, how much it really matters compared to, what USC fans think is so important. Obviously at a time like this, you see, what is really important, and hopefully we get back to talking about sports and, things that are much more fun than health concerns for everyone.
Yeah. We had a couple comments. So Dave said he lives on a golf course and it's shut down along with the tennis courts, swimming pools, and the rec center until further notice. Someone made a comment, oh, you're roughing it in Hermosa Beach. Nice. Yeah, everyone's just got to kind of, wherever you live, that's basically where you're going to be staying. And let's see. Jasper wants to talk about how much everyone's lost in their 401ks. I don't think we're going to get into that, Jasper. But yes, if you have money in your 401k, and especially if you're younger and if you're younger, you have mostly in equities, mostly in stocks, it's going to take a bath over the last couple of weeks, and you hope it bounces back. The stock market usually does, but I don't think we're going to get into that too much. Curtis says, back to football. I hope this break helps our injuries. Beat Bama. Curtis from Moreno Valley. And there are some disadvantages of being USC and having the new defense to implement, having the special teams, new schemes to implement, and not being able to do that in spring football as of now. But you guys were out there. There was a lot of dudes that were injured. So if spring football was delayed, maybe that's a benefit to USC, as Curtis was pointing out.
I mean, if it's delayed, yes. But is it going to be delayed versus canceled? I don't think so. I think that it's actually harmful to USC, because are those guys getting in and getting rehab now? That's a big question that we don't really know. I know some guys that are around campus are going to be able to. But again, I think once spring break is over, are players coming back to live in their apartments near campus, or are you going to stay home? And are you going to be able to come in and get rehab and training and stuff like that? I mean, is that considered an essential need for players? And, what can you do to continue to rehab if you don't have that piece of equipment at home, or you can't, I think you're going to see a lot of, home remedy is not the right word, but kind of DIY, type stuff where you use bands or you use something else in place of, an actual machine instead of getting ice and stem. Maybe you're getting someone to massage for you or something, or to work out a certain muscle group or whatever it is. I think there's going to be a lot of
peas,
the bag of frozen peas instead. I think there's going to be a lot of adjustments, and actually, I think in if we're talking college football, I think the schools that are able to adjust the best are going to be able to come out of this better than they were, versus some schools that don't adjust well are going to come out worse. And that's not a good sign for USC, what we've seen in the past, because how often have we said they need to just change something? They need to make an adjustment just to do something different, and they don't. So how well are they going to be creative? Now, with new athletic department personnel, new defensive coaches, you would say, hey, there's maybe they can come up with something. But if you're just going off the track record, USC's not been very good at making those adjustments that way. So it's a lot different situation, but just in a general term, you kind of wonder if USC comes out well in that regard.
Yeah. Dave brings up a good point. I'm guessing it's going to be an abbreviated / postponed schedule with Pac-12 opponents only. He doesn't think USC will even end up playing Alabama. The first weekend of college football, especially this season, is amazing. And in the Pac-12, it's great. I mean, on the low end, you have like Oregon State going to Oklahoma State, but you have, Oregon playing Ohio State and Washington and Michigan and USC and Alabama. There's some great games. It would be a shame if that weekend was cast away.
But, it depends on, obviously, a ton of factors there, whether that'll happen. And that's a long way away. It's much different than, say, the NBA season. If they get to go, will they just go straight to playoffs? Those type of questions. MLB season, because those are seasons that were current and about to be starting for the MLB. I think it's a lot different there, but there could be some factors into that. Looking at, if there are still risks and concerns with travel, do they eliminate cross-country travel? Does it become a regional schedule? And, so then schools maybe, hey, San Diego State was going to go play, they were going to, I don't even know if, Fresno State was going to play Clemson or something. Well, hey, now Fresno State needs to stay on the West Coast, and there's alterations to the schedule that way. Would that end up being the, a pause in the USC Notre Dame rivalry? Those things that people, and it'll depend, how quickly can those things been changed? There's a lot of factors that will go into that, but maybe you see something like that where instead of maybe abbreviated, maybe you see a regional schedule instead of a nationwide schedule for teams.
Yeah.
Won't be a problem for the SEC.
No,
because very few of them travel any further than like 200 miles to play a non-conference game. So
if you're in the Big 12 and you're going from like Lubbock, Texas to Morgantown, West Virginia, that's a conference game. What are you going to do? I mean, that's
and obviously the most travel happens in the West just because states are spread out more. But in other sports, not football, but the WAC has the most ridiculous geographic footprint of any conference in the nation, because their four corners, at least in baseball. Now they have a couple other schools that don't play certain sports and do play other ones, but in baseball, their four corners are Seattle University, Cal Baptist University in Los Angeles. Then you go out or in Riverside, you go out to UT Rio Grande Valley, which is basically on the Mexican border by the Gulf of Mexico. And then their northeast border is Chicago State. That geographic footprint is ridiculous. So I think you're going to see that if there was something with travel restrictions, there might be just a different style of schedule. You might lose a conference. I don't know exactly how it would work out, but you would lose just a conference affiliation for a year or something.
Yeah.
Say Seattle's like, hey, we're going to play the Washington States of the world versus going to Chicago State. Who
And
knows? I mean, a lot of unknowns out there.
the
Definitely.
schedules are so complicated. I don't know if you got to do that. I don't know if anyone could pull that off, but we'll see. We're hopeful that that's not going to come to that, and this is going to be reined in. But for the next month, around here, if you're in California, our lives are going to change significantly now with this stay-at-home order from the governor. We had a couple people kind of talking about what they could get out of the stores. Jasper, he said, by the time I get off work at 4:30, all the water, toilet paper, meat, bread, and milk is gone. I went to my local Vons 2 nights ago, I think, at night before it closed. There weren't lines. I didn't want to be around where there was a lot of people, and there was like things like eggs were gone and toilet paper and stuff. But there was some meat you could get. I got a steak I ate last night. There were some things you can get, but it varies where you are. And now, what you talk about the workouts that the football players are going through, and they have to do it on their own. All the nutrition stuff is going to be on your own too, and it depends where you live and what you can get your hands on. It's going to disrupt the routine of these guys significantly. And if you're an Amon-Ra St. Brown and you have like a huge gym in your house, like because your dad is a workout fiend and probably has protein up the everywhere you want. I mean, it's probably not going to affect him that much. But for other guys, maybe you don't come from a wealthy home, and just getting regular food is going to be an issue. So I'm curious how that impacts everybody.
Yeah, I was messaging with one of the seniors that's was preparing to get ready for a pro day and those type of situations, and try to make a roster. And that was one of the things I hadn't even thought about, because we talk about and we make light of, but Nico Fala, when he came back, he looked like a different guy when he came to pro day because, hey, you got all the time now. You're not in classes. You can work out multiple times a day, but you're eating a lot more food to help with that weight gain you're trying to make. And that was one of the things that this senior said was, finding food has actually been, one of the most difficult parts of this time because – you're trying to get your workouts and stuff, but you're trying to get that nutrition. And, so how exactly is that something that can be pre-ordered? Is that going to be, maybe that's a next step in the evolution of this is someone creating a business of getting specific foods just for athletes to create and for their nutrition plans and whatnot. It's a very fluid situation, a very unique situation, but that's one of the things I hadn't even thought about. And when it came up, I was like, wow, that's obviously that's the simple, basic tenet of life that you need sustenance. And if you're trying to add muscle, you need a lot of sustenance. So, that's another one that is a great point that is something that players are trying to adjust to and figure out.
Yeah, with the school schedules, how that's going to adjust. Everything is changing. You have all these things that are set up for the players with workouts and their school schedules and nutrition and all that, and all that's out the window now. Alex wanted a shout out. No, Alex, of course. Yeah. Shout out to Alex. Already did that. So, and everyone, give us a like or two. Come on, hit the like button on there. Like I said, we just put this together at the last minute. I sprung it on Keely like an hour ago, and she was like, "I can't do that; it's too quick." So Keely, I'm like, "Oh, shotgun, I'll do it. We're just dudes. We'll jump on." But yeah, I just wanted to kind of get an opportunity to let guys come in and chat a little bit, talk about your experiences, and we can talk some USC football. We might do more of these. I don't know. We're in this remote situation, and the shelter, the stay at home. Shelter in place, whatever. I guess it's not full shelter in place. Stay at home is a little bit a step below that, but that's where we are right now, at least here in California. So, get bored at home. We're writing stories. We're editing video, doing things like that. But we can do more of these shows. We'll try to do more podcasts. We'll try to do some extra, televisions, which we're not going to be discussing the latest thing that was going on in spring football because spring football isn't happening. But you guys have questions, and if you just want to chat about USC football and different, you can do it on USC football ideas of other things you want to do for shows like this, I don't mind doing these. I mean, you see other people do kind of live shows every day. I don't think we'll get to that, but we can do these kind of informal shows where people talk about their experiences and stuff, ask questions, and I'm cool with that. If you're cool with that, Chuck.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm the most I'm getting out is to go run and walk around the neighborhood a little bit. So having something to break up the day, that's one of the things. I'm used to working from home, but I usually don't have a structured schedule because every other day I'm going to a different event or a practice or a game or whatever it may be. It's one of the things that I'm finding is that finding that structure and being able to schedule out my day a little bit is helping to help me be a little bit more productive compared to some people who aren't used to staying at home. This is still a little bit different situation even for me, and I'm used to working from home on a constant. But one of the things you did mention about when Dave or Jasper was saying that not being able to get all the stuff you wanted at the grocery store, it now is becoming like a chop basket every night when you cook dinner. You get a couple of days of groceries that you think, okay, that's a good meal, and then you're like, all right, we got this random thing here. What can I do with yams? What can I do? What has been left on this shelf? Okay, garbanzo beans are left. What can we make out of this? And so it's becoming interesting for people, just kind of making up some meals as they go there. But when you go back to the athletes, they're the ones that kind of need that if they want to be in peak physical condition. So they're trying their hardest to get those meals on point. And so I wonder if they're consulting with a nutritionist trying to get a set meal plan as well going forward to help out as well.
Yeah. Some people were saying that I was breaking up. The YouTube is saying the stream health is excellent, so hopefully there is no breaking up there. But I apologize if there was. Some people are saying your voice is breaking up. Interesting. Well, it says the stream health is okay, so sorry. Hopefully that'll get fixed. Yeah, it's so he said, are we either going to talk? I think Chris wants to know, are we going to talk virus or talk football? I think we're trying to talk a little bit of both. I mean, the virus is impacting all of us right now, and it's impacting the football teams. We're trying to kind of talk about what that could be going forward, as far as like what are we going to expect for spring football. I've seen a lot of different projections of, well, they could move spring football to the summer. It could just be in addition to fall camp. Obviously, it depends on when things start to settle down. And once they do, then I think things can kind of get rescheduled. I think the NCAA will have decisions to make of what they can do. I don't think you're going to see the SEC do one thing and the Pac-12 do something else. I think it's going to be a conference-wide. And if it does get pushed out, and delayed, and impacts the season, I think that's going to be extremely complicated. So hopefully it won't do something like that. I guess it could be a situation where, I don't even know for football, I don't think you could have like players play without fans because you got 100 guys on the sideline already. Like that's a huge gathering. So maybe for basketball you could do it. I thought they could still do golf tournaments, because you're just people walking around. But for football, there's just way too many people together. I don't think that would work.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to testing. You've seen that the NBA has had a ton of players tested. A couple of Lakers actually have found out that they have been infected with the virus. Sean Payton from the Saints is the first NFL person to contract it as well. But I think testing is going to be the biggest thing. You can potentially have any type of gathering or any type of game if everyone has been tested recently right before it. And tests are so rare right now in the country that's why it's going to be a while before any of that stuff even can be even plausible, because you're hearing about in a couple other countries, where things are getting a little bit back closer to being back to normal. Looking at South Korea, they're getting close to being able to open up basketball again there. So I think there's a couple of areas where these things are starting to work their way towards it. But in the United States, at least, until we get more and more testing and that's developed to a better and quicker, then I think that's going to be a big hurdle to get over before you see any actual competitions on the field. And even with golf, you got to have the players and the caddies, like everyone would need to be tested going into the tournament to be safe. And right now it's not plausible. So I think that's one of the biggest areas where if there are improvements, then maybe you start seeing some normalcy start to happen.
And I actually, it's funny. We were walking, and if you guys, you know, talking to a friend of mine, and we were talking about that with the NBA. Two Lakers tested positive today. They haven't announced two, at least as of now. And I think Dave was talking about first step is to get the entire team tested. I think the issue is, yeah, you can test everybody. Say you test the whole team. Well, then you'd have to keep them in a room. Like you'd have to, keep them away from anyone else. Because if they go and get in contact with their families or whatever, then you'd have to retest them again. So I think there's a lot of kind of issues with that. So I don't know. This is certainly uncharted territory. We don't know what's going to happen. We're seeing new steps being taken every day. Just think about what you were doing a week ago. If you were at a restaurant or something that you can't go to anymore, and now we know for at least a month, we're not going to be able to do any of those things that a lot of the things that we were doing before. And I don't know, tomorrow it could be more restrictive. California apparently is the first state to do the whole stay-at-home order. So we'll see if other states adopt that. But it's just it's crazy. We just don't know what's going to happen next. So all we can do is we can speculate, but just kind of see what happens.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation, and like you said, basically you would have to be tested and then quarantined to be able to participate in events. And I've talked with some people that work for CBS, and you look at shows like Big Brother or Survivor. Like, can you test all those people before and all the crew people, and then still be able to put new content on? Because you're going to run into, and ESPN's going to the Ocho this weekend. They're bringing out all the old content with, you're going to see flip cup competitions, I think, and
Yes.
And cornhole. I was on Twitter today, and I was saying, someone, Jared Wade, a friend of mine from Twitter, said, where are the chainsaw competitions from when we were growing up? I remember watching so many different weird sports. That's how I knew about Australian rules football and stuff from middle school to high school at like 3 a.m. because I've been a night owl for forever. And ESPN2 would be playing world strongman competitions or whatever it is. You'd have all those type of things. And if they just bring the chainsaw competitions back, I mean, as soon as you hear that chainsaw rev up, you're like, all right, I'm in. I'm sucked into this. I got to watch the log rolling portion to see if anybody eats, bites the dust and hits their face on the log as they're rolling, those type of things. But that's the type of content that you might start seeing, old reruns and just how much new content can be produced for all these shows that are already on TV. You're seeing people streaming. The streaming numbers are ridiculous right now for all the different
Netflix
network. Yeah, all the different services. But when do we run out of content, and when does stuff start getting recycled? Obviously, there's lots of rights deals and different things there with who can play what. But who has the rights to some of those old shows might prove to be who gets the most views, and therefore the whatever money comes from that as well.
I got a great idea. You make trades in the NFL, and thank God for the NFL because that's like at least stuff is happening as far as like Tom Brady leaving the Patriots, and there's stuff going on. You don't want to hear about Kevin Durant got the coronavirus. Like that's not exciting, but like players switching teams, that's at least something that we can watch and talk about. But if you ever traveled overseas and you go to Australia or something, and like you said, Australian rules football, there's like a million types of like rugby, Australian rules football. You go to England and they're watching cricket and all this stuff. All you got to do is get the ESPN of ESPN here, trade with ESPN, whatever the ESPN equivalent is in England, and just swap sports. We'll watch all these sports we've never seen before. We have no idea what's going on. We get the English Premier League, but we don't get all this other stuff. So just swap sports with other countries, and we could watch a whole bunch of stuff.
It's a good trade. I like the idea. When I was in South Africa, during the World Cup doing an internship, and we would have the TV on, and there was this sport called netball. It was like basketball with a circular hoop, but you couldn't move. It was really weird. But
women
I watched it
too, right? They're like set shots and stuff.
Yes, and I watched it for like 3 hours straight, just trying to figure out what the rules were. Not having any clue, and it was in a different language, so I couldn't understand. It wasn't in English, even though that's one of the languages down there. But I was like, I'm just trying to figure out what this sport is. And, eventually I kind of gathered what exactly it was. So, yeah, we'll see if ESPN makes some trades with Sky Sports or with TSN up in Canada. We get some more, some extra curling content or something. Who knows?
I would watch curling. I would, yeah. That's
I'm in to watch the cornhole or the bowling. I used to watch so many random sports that I have no
They would
problem
have
with it.
darts. Do you ever watch that? The darts stuff.
Darts are crazy, any of those things. So, and then maybe you'll see some, you see some USC athletes pick up on some of these sports and start playing them at home.
I like it.
And now we get some extra content from USC players. Who knows?
Gary wrote in. He says, I hope Helton follows through with the promise for USC to have a lot more hitting during 2020 fall camp, if 2020 fall camp happens. And I kind of wrote a story about this. This was one of the things where you could talk about stuff like hitting more and being more physical, and all those coaches. That Tuesday was awesome, and that's probably one of the last cool things we're going to get to cover for a while for USC, when all the assistant coaches were out there. Violence and physicality and all that stuff. You could talk about it all you want, and some fans got excited, and that's cool. But there's a lot of fans, and completely understand their point of view as, you got to show me. Like, I'm not going to buy it. And spring was an opportunity to kind of show the fans that they were going to be a different team. They don't have that opportunity anymore, and so we don't know. We'll see what happens, going forward, if they can a later spring, or if not till fall camp, or none of it. But that was a real opportunity, and now that's lost. Like, where USC was in a bad position, because they needed to show the fans, hey, we're going to do something different, and they talked about it, but they didn't they don't have a chance to show it right now.
Yeah, and it's disappointing, because they talked about it. They needed to show it, but they needed to start practicing it, and so that their bodies would get used to it. We've talked about this before, about building a callus. If you tackle more in practice, the body gets used to hits, and so then you don't. Now you're risking, if you get to fall camp and you go through with it, hey, if you don't have any spring workouts, you don't have anything where you actually get to put pads on, and then, hey, you get nicked up and you get a sore shoulder or whatever, hey, you sit out, we'll get you back for fall camp. Now you're going into fall camp and you start trying to implement that, and if you do and you start getting some of those injuries, those bumps and bruises type injuries, they're going to keep guys out for a couple of weeks, not serious, but, significant. Then do you then back off? Does Clay Helton say, this is too much, guys. I've been through so many injury issues here at USC. Then we need to back off of this before we get anybody seriously injured or something. I think that's still a concern. You had a chance to, put it in practice in spring, see how it worked, and say, okay, look, it's going to be fine. And then when you actually get to fall camp, you'll be able to work through it and continue to progress in that. Now it's still a wait and see, because I think that there's some concern there for Clay Helton to say, sees it, put it in place, and go, I don't really like this, and starts pulling back on it if there are some injuries early in camp type of thing. So it's a big concern for sure.
Yeah, we just don't know what's going to transpire there, and just all these coaches, everyone's in a weird spot. No one really knows what to do. We're getting lots of comments about different sports to watch. Strongman was comedy gold. They said Sky Sports, so that would be, I guess, ESPN and Sky Sports need to make a trade. So that's my proposal, everybody. ESPN and Sky Sports, just trade your sports, just go from a year ago and play what you had. I would like to see, someone mentioned this, I think, on Twitter. Why didn't TNT, TBS, True TV, and what's the other one that's on? There's 4 networks.
CBS?
And CBS. It's a big one, CBS. They should have just replayed the entire March Madness from last year. Just run everything the way it ran. I thought that would be kind of funny to see that.
I think I saw a tweet today. I don't know the veracity of this tweet, but that CBS is going to actually run some significant games or dramatic games on Saturday, starting on Saturday.
Okay.
Again, that goes into rights. Just because you filmed it doesn't necessarily mean you still own the rights to it based on those contracts and different things. So maybe that's something they will do. I found a tweet that was interesting, a tweet exchange that some people had taken a year, I think it was 1991, and a certain year, built out the bracket and gave it to their family and said, "Don't cheat. Pick a bracket, and then we're going to all watch each game, day by day or whatever, and just play out the tournament." And so everyone's got a bracket that they're rooting for. and trying to hope to win. So I thought that was an interesting idea as well. So people are trying to get creative, and hopefully, it's great that people are being creative, but hopefully we get some clarity health wise on this going forward, and continue to make strides to keep everyone healthy, so that we can get back to actual games. That'd be the fun part.
Yeah, that would be funny because I'm someone that, like, you'd ask me like who won the Super Bowl last year, and I really have to think about it a lot of times. I don't remember a lot of that stuff. So if you're like, oh, that tournament from 1991, like, yeah, I'm not remembering that. That would be kind of funny to go through there and see. But yeah, today was supposed to be the first day of the NCAA tournament, which I'm not.
The most exciting day in sports to me.
Yeah, I'm not a huge. I used to like college basketball a lot more than I do now. It's just not as exciting for me. But I still love the tournament. And I was actually thinking about going to Vegas with some friends for the first weekend, which is awesome. When I was working as an engineer, one of the coolest things would be like take that Thursday off and park your butt at a bar stool at 9 in the morning and just watch games all day, taking the day off. Like, those were fun. I remember that. Those were fun times. And to not have the start of March Madness, I mean, losing the NBA and all that kind of stuff, but this was just like a 3-week period that you kind of look forward to every year, and even if you're not a big college basketball fan. So the first day of the tournament, those first couple days, just so many games, and True TV becomes relevant again. It's just depressing that there's no college basketball on right now.
Yeah, I think it's the most exciting day in sports. For the general public to be able to see 16 games on Thursday, 16 games on Friday. There's going to be upsets. There's going to be dramatic moments. And you're flipping through like, okay, I'll just watch this game for, 15's beating or 12's beating a 5. Got to start watching that one a little bit closer. I would always, anytime, the boss button, MMOD, March Madness on Demand, NCAA.com/MMOD. Always had that pulled up. I was watching 2 games, and there was the boss button that you could always press, and had some like spreadsheet that would pop up. It was great, absolutely incredible. So I was always watching games while at work and stuff. It was always one of my favorite days. I remember in college being able to, you'd have 6, 8, 10 teammates throughout the day or coming in and out, and just, you try to avoid class as much as you can, or you rush to class. You have it on your computer there. I left class a couple times to go because there were buzzer beaters about to happen, and I was like, "Oh, I can't miss this." So I think this was before live streaming on the laptop.
Before you could watch on your phone, yeah.
Yeah, so I was keeping up with the score, and it was like, a minute and a half to go, near upset, got to run over to somewhere else. I did that a couple times. Come back to class, teacher's like, where did you go for 13 minutes? Just randomly without saying anything. Well, buzzer beater. Yeah. So. It's disappointing to miss that this season. So it's everyone's kind of feeling that hurt, I think, because everyone, pretty much the entire population, I feel like, enjoys March Madness just because of the drama. You don't have to know anything about the teams or the players if you don't want to, and there's still plenty of drama, and you can get into it regardless. And if you fill out a bracket, then you have a rooting interest as well, so then you get into it a little bit more. But unfortunately, not happening this year. Hopefully, the spring sports are the last ones to get canceled. We'll see as far as college athletics.
Dave S. wrote in, you guys were at the Holiday Bowl. I was actually not. I did a radio show in LA, so I didn't go down there, but I watched it, obviously. In your opinion, what percentage was USC's strength and conditioning / lack of physical preparation a factor in the loss? Any thoughts on that, Shaka?
I mean, I think the biggest factor in the loss was Keaton Slovis' elbow injury.
Yeah.
I mean, they were right there. Actually, if Austin Jackson makes that block, AJ Epinesa doesn't get around the corner, it's a touchdown. The pass was there. It should be a touchdown. And with the accuracy that Keaton Slovis had shown all season, there was separation and space. He throws to Michael Pittman. It's a touchdown. I think USC would have then been within 3 points at that point. So I think that was the biggest turning point in that game, the biggest factor in the loss. Now, did USC wear down late in the game defensively? Yes. And that was exactly what Iowa was good at. They were able to run the ball really well. They take almost the entire play clock on nearly every snap. They keep you on the field for these 12, 13 play drives of the offense. And can you force them to kick field goals? That was the big thing, and USC wasn't. That they struggle with the things they struggle with all season, with misdirection and getting beat around the edge. but then they also wore down because that's the type of opponent they were playing. So I think that I don't know if you want to say it was strength and conditioning preparation, but it was definitely, they were definitely wore down in that game. And, a lot of teams wear down late in the season when you play physical teams like that. In a bowl game, there's no excuse. You should be fresh. You should be able to go. You have to rotate enough. And USC was rotating more early in that game to try to stay fresh. But later in the game, they went with their starters. The backups aren't making enough plays type of thing. And the starters couldn't get it done either.
Yeah.
They had chances in that game, plenty of chances, but they just couldn't get it done.
Elsie Eccles said, "There's no way in hell football season is going to happen if the virus goes into August." Yeah, I think with college football, I think if it's delayed, it's not like you could start the next day. There's going to be some lead time, and you can't really move the schedules around and stuff. So I think it's important for college football to kind of get things wrapped up earlier, because I don't know if you're going to be able to recover and be able to delay things or take the first month of the season off because the schedules are so unbalanced. It was just everyone's different. So it's a good point. We don't know. So we hopefully things can wrap up quicker than that.
No, that's 5 months away. So a lot can obviously happen in 5 months. You look at some of the places where the virus hit first and the outbreaks, and look at China and how they're even the Wuhan province where it originated from and attacked most frequently, I guess, early. They actually now are closing down some of those, temporary hospitals and stuff like that. And I think today was actually, or yesterday was actually the first time they didn't have a new case, I want to say. So that was 4 or 5 months ago as well. So a lot can change in 5 months. Again, I think the biggest thing is, is there the testing in the United States, getting that taken care of? But then is there a vaccine developed? That's something that they're working on. Are there some things to help with the conditions and stuff? Because if you get it under control, then you can start getting back to normal. So you don't have to eradicate it. You have to just get it under control before you can start making those steps back towards, the normal everyday life that we're used to.
We have one from Gary. For Ryan and Shotgun, who else would it be for, I guess, because we're the only ones here. But did you guys think USC had added one or two more quality players to the starting offensive line during the first day of spring practice that you observed?
I'm trying exactly. Do I think that there's one or two? Are there more quality players now? I'm not sure exactly how we're.
Yeah, it wasn't really worded. Did you guys think USC had added? Did you feel like there was a couple quality players added to the starting offensive line?
I mean, you're losing your best prospect in Austin Jackson, and now that throws everything. And you're losing Drew Richmond on the other side. So no, I don't think there's anything added because you don't have any of the freshmen coming in yet. So those guys are going to get here. It's actually I was just I'm working on an Elijah Vera Tucker story for tomorrow, so I was transcribing what he had said after that practice, and he said, we don't have much depth right now, but that's going to be a good thing for us because everyone's going to get a lot of experience in spring. And then in summer, we'll get those 6 guys to come in, the freshman class. Obviously, you're not going to get that. And I think it's a big thing for the offensive line because what do we always say about offensive line? You got to build that chemistry. You want to get your 5 starting guys figured out so they can work together and those things. I think it's going to be a work in progress if there's not a spring, any kind of, we'll just say off season. There's not any off season work together with that group. When they get to fall camp, and if you get a month of fall camp, I think there's going to be still some issues. That's a very big concern for USC if they play that Alabama game 1, because Alabama's going to be able to attack consistently. They're going to attack from different directions, different angles. They're going to really probe and test USC to see how the offensive line picks up stunts and delayed blitzes and a lot of different things because they know that it's an inexperienced group together. So I think that's one of the biggest areas of concern, if not the biggest, for USC is figuring out the offensive line and getting them working together so that they can build that chemistry.
Here's a thought, and this was Dave kind of gave me this idea. He said 10-game schedule. He said I think you could start week 1 versus Stanford on 9/19, so it would be like basically week 3, and said the 10-game schedule with Notre Dame being the only non-conference game. I mean, I think that might work out well for USC, but you got to make everybody work. There's people that play all their out-of-conference games early. There's some that mix them in. But this is, if you have a shortened schedule, however you do it, say it's a 10-game schedule, or even just, 8 conference games or whatever ends up being, in that case, maybe what you do is you expand the playoff afterwards. So this is what the people wanted more than 4 teams in the playoff. Then you have each conference like, okay, you guys got to figure out who your champion is. Everyone can send their champion, and we'll put two guys, 2 champions as give them buys, and then we'll bring a group of 5, the best group of 5 we've seen out there, and put them in, and then all of a sudden, then you could have like a 16 playoff or something. That maybe they do something like that if you have to shorten the early part of the season.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's basically going back to the old 10-game regular season schedule, and then advancing from that. And now you have more time for that. Hey, there's a lot of things that could still happen, and that would be an interesting dynamic if you change that. If that ends up being something that is changed, and if that works and it happens, and people are like, "Oh, this really worked out well. Everyone got a chance. Everyone was represented." You go, do we stick with this going forward? Is that something we need to do? Do we make it 8? Everyone has 8 conference games and then 2 non-conference, and just go from there. And how much money you can bring in with those home games and different things. So, and the TV schedules and different things. So there's going to be a lot of things that will be discussed as we understand and figure out when things are going to be more clear. And John Wilner's covered a couple of these things, but some really interesting stuff. The Pac-12 would have had potentially 7 teams in the NCAA tournament. That's a lot of money that they would have been getting from the NCAA after the last couple of years having, I think, 6 total in the last 2 years, because you get paid out per unit, which is game played for your team. So, if you have 7 teams and say 3 of them make it to the second round, just leave it as an even number and say, they all get beat there, but you get 10 units then, compared to the last couple of years where you've only had a couple of teams advance, and out of 6 total, the payouts are going to be much different. It was the Pac-12 scheduled really well in the non-conference, had an opportunity to make some money with the NCAA tournament, but is that going to happen? Is the NCAA going to be paying out some of that money? There's a lot of insurance claims and different things. We're kind of in a new territory, and things that are still going to have to be figured out and discussed and determined as we go forward.
Yeah, Elsie Eccles was saying you could eliminate the buys and push the schedule back a week, but buys don't match up. There's a lot of it's a very complicated schedule. It's way different than the NFL, where they could manipulate a little bit more. So that'd be curious to kind of see. But Gary kind of had to follow up. He wanted to know if anyone was added. So there weren't any transfers or anything in, Gary, as far as the offensive line goes. They did make an offer to the offensive tackle from Akron, I believe, who's in the transfer portal. What's going to happen with the transfer portal? We don't know now. That all this stuff is kind of up in the air of what you can do. But there really wasn't any new additions. You have Andrew Voorhees. He wasn't back, right? Shotgun was Voorhees. He was still
out.
Yeah.
So they were going to bring him along slowly. If I remember correctly, Clay Helton kind of sounded like he wasn't going to be back in the first couple of weeks at least, and maybe even the whole spring. I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but Voorhees is a guy that will be added to the mix, when they resume, and he's a guy that you expect to be a starter. So you add him back. I think that's probably the biggest addition there. A guy like Bernard Shermer is another guy that's kind of been MIA with the program. Since he hasn't done much, maybe you could say he's kind of an addition, but he was not in the first 2 teams that were out there. They actually had 2 walk-ons at right guard and right tackle with the second team offensive line. So that tells you how thin the depth is there for USC on the offensive line.
Yeah. Jacob wants to know any new staff hires, support staff, media staff, recruiting staff. I think Antonio Morales reported somebody was added to take, I think it was Sam Curtis's place, one of the ops guys. So I think there were 7 or 8 recs that were added as far as support staff and recruiting staff go. But that was the latest one I saw. I forget the guy's name, but Antonio tweeted about him.
Yeah, I'm looking it up real quick here. I know he came from Miami, from the Miami Dolphins. So John Blake, actually, because Sam
Blake.
Curtis is going to Memphis, returning to Tennessee, where his roots are. And John Blake, according to Antonio's tweet, worked in football ops for the Miami Dolphins last season. I think he's also been at Arkansas previously. I haven't done much research on him, but just another person to help behind the scenes with USC. So the fact that they've added people is a positive.
Yeah.
Now let's see, what work that group can do to help out with the recruiting efforts and help out with logistics and stuff to get USC to help out with counting 11 men and getting them on the field together.
Yeah.
You say support staff, but Gavin Morris is down there on the sideline. If you have someone that, he's just a hype guy on the sideline, but there are other people that can be the person that's the counter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 11. Got it. Okay, good. Whatever it may be. So all those staff people that are on the sideline, they all have a role on game day as well. From entertaining the recruits and different things to actually helping out in the game. So all those support staff hires are a positive in my mind.
Yeah, for sure. I think those all needed to happen. And we actually talked with Gerard Martinez. If you want to go back to uscfootball.com, we did a podcast. I guess it was yesterday. Today's Thursday. Yeah, yesterday. The days are getting mixed up. A Trojan Blast recruiting podcast, but it's free for everybody. We usually do those as premium podcasts, but this one was free. And he did talk about the importance of what those support staff people can do and adding those extra recruiting bodies and the kind of calls you can make, especially in a situation you're in now where all the visits and stuff are canceled. When visits can start up again, it's going to be a madhouse. It could potentially be maybe official visits go away. He talked about maybe the early signing period goes away for this time where you can't really do it and you have to move it back to February. But it's going to be a scramble if there's only a limited window to recruit in as far as actual in-person, evaluations and visits and things like that. And then you need that support staff doing all that stuff. You don't want, Dante Williams having to figure all this stuff out. You want him on the phone talking to all these guys. You want the recruiting support staff to be able to set all that stuff up, all logistics, which are going to be changing. So it's a good. I'm glad. It's good for USC that they hire all those people because this will not be a regular recruiting cycle by any measure.
Yeah, it's much better for a guy like Dante Williams to have an itinerary and say, okay, you're stopping at these 4 high schools today versus Dante Williams having to look up Google Maps, figure out where he needs to go, which schools are close to each other, and taking the time that it would take to do that. Because during baseball season, when I plan out and I try to hit multiple games in a weekend or multiple sites and different things, I went to Arizona the first weekend. I saw, I think, 11 games in 4 days, and it's 6 different sites. Like, that takes time to plan out. Yeah. Now, would you rather have Dante Williams taking his time with Google Maps, or would you rather him being on the phone talking to another kid?
Yeah.
Those are the type of things that, you need people to help out with the logistics, do the back behind the scene things. I disagree with Gerard on the fact that if things get started back up at a normal time and there's just no spring and maybe not even summer visits, that they would go away from the December signing period. I think that because the first year when they had the early signing period, there weren't any spring visits that year. They were just continuing from where it was, and they didn't have the spring visits beforehand when they had made that rule change. I think they would just say, hey, kids can visit during the fall, and if they don't want to sign, they don't have to. So I think that the NCAA is not going to just eliminate it and say, well, we're going to get rid of this and take away an option from the kids. I think that they would keep that in there, and I think more people would actually sign in February than December if that were to happen.
That makes sense. We're getting about the hour. We didn't want to do this too long. We'll do one last question. If you were advising Elijah Vera Tucker, would you tell him to compete for left tackle or solidify his status as a premier guard?
And this is an interesting question, and one that I actually, kind of brought up previously, maybe in a Family Feud podcast or something. But if you're Elijah Vera Tucker, does your value go up because you're versatile and you can play left tackle, and they look at you and say, hey, he's not going to be drafted there, but if we need him in a pinch at the NFL level, we can put him out there because that's the thing. You need versatility on the offensive line. I think his value probably goes up there. Or is it more valuable, though, to be the left guard and become the best guard in the country, the top 2 or 3 guy, and become, and then your draft stock rises? That's that's a hard question to answer. I think the versatility is really important for guys that are fringe roster guys. Hey, do we want to keep this guard or want to keep this tackle? Well, that guy can play both of them if we need him to as a backup. Then let's keep him over them. They're pretty even, then we'll keep the guy who has a little bit more versatility. But if you're going to be a top end draft pick, I think it's more important to be the premier guy as a guard for him. So it's a hard one to look at. And the wild card is if he comes out and shows that, hey, I'm a legit left tackle, his stock rises even more.
Yeah.
So I don't know that he has if he has the body type as far with the length. And, I know he's got the footwork to do it. Does he have the quickness? And does he have the length that they're looking for to be a left tackle? I don't know. And we're going to see what it looks like when he actually gets time. And I think this, unfortunately for him, spring ball could have been big for him just to shake off the rust because he's done this before in high school, but then to, be able to start mastering the craft and mastering those techniques that you need as a tackle versus a guard.
Yeah. All right. Makes sense. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up. Shotgun, thanks for coming
one last question. Did you see Donald's question? In the last 5 years, what recruit were you most bummed we didn't get? And by we, I'm assuming he means USC because we don't actually get any recruits.
I didn't see that. Let's see. Last 5 years. I think Penei Sewell would probably be a big one. You could have said Brew McCoy, but USC ended up getting him back.
Brew McCoy was a big one. Another one is Bryce Young to me, just because he's great to talk to. To me, which recruit I get most bummed about is the ones that are great to talk to. And so having Oluwala Batiku, I want to tell his story. I wish he would have turned into the player that he was this last year at Illinois at USC just to be able to tell his story a little bit more. And so he was one guy that I was really hoping USC would get because he had a really interesting backstory. But Bryce Young and Brew McCoy, both of those guys are really awesome kids to talk to. So those are the ones you kind of hope that you get because they know how to speak well. They know how to they go through interviews and stuff. Another guy that I put in that same category is Miller Moss. He's my guy. He's great. He's great to talk to. He's always open to the media and stuff. So if USC gets him, that'd be great for us covering USC just for the future interviews and stuff. But I would say I'll caveat this and say the recruit that USC was probably most bummed they didn't get. Penei Sewell's a great one, but also Justin Flo. I mean, that guy is just amazing to watch. He's the best linebacker I've seen at the high school level. So I'm sure it's disappointing not to be able to see him hitting people in practice for 4 years.
Yeah, I think Flo is a huge one. Kayvon Thibodeau, I mean, even though USC – for whatever reason, wasn't as on him as hard. He's a big one too. If you want to go back further than 5 years, DeAnthony Thomas was a big one. Like that was a tough one to stomach. That kid was really fun to cover too. So
yeah, he was so electric with the ball in his hands. I remember watching him at the Coliseum, the LA City Championship, and it was raining. And the defenders had no chance, just no chance. It was raining. It's slick. No way that they were going to stop him in that game. I think he had 4 or 5 touchdowns. Hayes Ballard, I think, had a touchdown as a fullback in that game. So that Crenshaw team was fun to watch.
Yeah. Marcus Martin was on that team too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he ended up – that was a weird signing day. I was there for that signing day where DeAnthony Thomas picks Oregon and, Marcus Martin had picked USC. That was weird. Not as weird as what we're going through today, but that was very weird. One last thing, Super OC Holmes, class of 93, Ryan. I am also class of 93. And Trojan family, see you on the other side of this mess. Fight on. Well, thanks for that one. And hopefully we see all you guys on the other side of this mess. All right, well, we just wanted to try something different. Thanks for joining us, and if you're watching on the replay, thanks. Just, another little evening we could talk some USC Trojan football. That is Shotgun Spratling. I'm Ryan Abraham. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you on the other side. See you next time.
Thanks, guys. Be safe. Wash your hands. All those good things. Social distance.